Well, hello, my fellow car modelers. How you doing today? We haven't done one of these in a while. We are going to take a look at the old days of model car building in the great old Scale Auto Enthusiast magazine and take a little retrospect look back at the hobby. And I'll tell you something, this is going to be neat. This is a really cool issue from very long time ago. From a very long time ago. I got some really cool things to show you. Let's take a look. So here we go. This is issue 23, and it was the January-February issue of 1983. And what a cover. Look at that. That is not a picture of a real gas station. That was a model. This was an inspiration to something to this day I want to build. I've always wanted to do. I love gas stations, first of all. I have always been infatuated with gas stations since I was a little kid. When I was a little kid, one of my dreams was to grow up and be a mechanic at a mobile station, and I actually did realize that dream. Yeah, well, in the late 90s, one of the rare last mobile gas stations a friend of mine ran, and I got to be a mechanic there, and I was all giddy about it. Got a mobile uniform and everything. It was pretty fun. This was something that was always really interesting to me. But what's cool about this magazine, this is actually dates pre me getting into the hobby by about 2 years. So this was a back issue I bought later on because I saw this issue. A friend of mine had all the issues, since the first one back in that day, back in the mid 80s when I met him. I saw this magazine, so one day I found this at an old used bookstore and I had to have it because there is an article in here that I have been saving to do a project that I still have not done that I one day want to do, and it is still, even though it is this is 83, that would be almost 40 years ago, and the article is still relevant today. We'll get to that article, but there's something really interesting about this book here. We'll take a look. First of all, when we get into this thing, oh hey, save $10 on a 2-year subscription. You got it. What was this? The 14th annual Model and Craft Show. That started a long time ago. That would have put that in 1969 was the first one. Well, we're going to see that there is no color pictures. This is the early days of Scale Auto Enthusiast, and there was just no glossy pages. It was all black and white. But still a great magazine. This still was really pro, and always started out with something, a little foreword or an editor's message from the great Gary Schmidt, who was the man who started all this. He is probably, I've said it before, Gary Schmidt needs to be remembered, and that's where I will always bring him up, because I think we have the hobby we have today solely because of Gary Schmidt. I really do believe that. Here's our message boards or our Facebook groups right here. People asking questions, and you had to hope that you got into the magazine and got your answer. We're really spoiled today because we put a question up and within 3 seconds we were getting their answers. These guys had to wait. If you got into the magazine, if you got picked, you'd have to wait a couple months. This is kind of like a little thing on all the new kits coming out. This is pretty cool. I don't know if you guys remember the 16th scale MPC Firebirds. I had one of those, and it was actually a pretty cool kit. I had a Revell one, and I had this one, and I liked from what I remember, I liked the MPC a little better than the Revell one. That was a 16th scale. And look at these great ads. How many of you remember Curbside Dioramics? They're one of the early aftermarket companies that just made excellent little pieces and parts for you to make your dioramas, and they did really amazing shop equipment and tools and also accessories for your car, suspension pieces and all that. Just amazing stuff. And then I've talked about Fred Katie decals, good old 10X 7R which was basically just MEK, which is now illegal, I guess. This nice chemical. It's that glue that just fuses the plastic together. Tenex was always some great stuff, but gosh, the bottle was never secure. Every time I'd buy this stuff, it would evaporate on me. It would always irk me a bit. These are all talking about kits that were coming out. No pictures, just talks about them. Like, for instance, MPC was coming out with the 83 Firebird, the 83 Turbocharger, the Dodge Turbo Ram. No pictures, though. It was all, we read about it and go, oh, you can see it in your mind. And they pretty much said, it's good, it's not so good, whatever. Here we had this gentleman here. He was James Butler from St. Albans, West Virginia. He got finished building his Street Freak or Street Machine, their Mopar, and he wanted a license plate so it would be street legal. And he says, hey, he figured it out and wrote in here how he took his 35mm camera, used Kodak Colors 2 film, set back a certain amount of feet, 12 feet away, all his little settings, and he took that picture to make himself, when he sends it to the photo lab, hopefully they had a 1-hour photo place, he could get it back really quick and cut those pictures out, and he had his license plate. That's how it was done back in the day. You're watching the Lucas C channel on YouTube. And here we go, another Facebook post here. When we wanted to show off our models to everyone in the world, you had to take decent pictures, black and white they had to be, send them off to Scale Auto, and pray and hope that they pick yours and put it in the magazine. 6 months later. Boy, talk about how much the hobby has changed. But before Scale Auto, there was none of this. So this really showed other builders out there that were adult model builders thinking they were the only ones. All of a sudden there was a magazine show there was others like us. And now, we got millions of us out there, huh? Really cool articles. And they touched everything in Scale Auto. Little lowrider Chevy here. How cool is that? Building a late model custom. A late model custom. So we're going to do a 1970 Chevrolet was a late model back in 83. That was only a 13-year-old car. Of course it's a late model. But some really, really cool tips. Very, very basic compared to our avenues today that we have, and how we can easily make stuff or acquire stuff that's very, very realistic. Here, to make disc brakes, well, kind of sort of take this and cut that out, and a piece of plastic here will represent that, and then you stick a piece of thread in it to be the brake line, and bambo, you got disc brakes for your late model Chevy Custom. Now we got guys blowing stuff out in 3D printers that, it looks, even the kits themselves today just has the parts to look perfect and exact. It's like you don't have to have something that just represents. It's pretty funny. But how cool is that? That was how it was done. And there was this collector showcase that, as you can tell, it was all about when it was collectors. It was always the 43rd scale, the small stuff. And they go through a couple of pages of it. What I find funny is to really prove the point. Every picture, they throw a set of keys in it just to show you how small the model is. But look at how far this goes. Now here it is. Here's the whole article on this fantastic little diorama. And what I found really cool about this diorama, like on the cover, is that it was lit up so you could do night shots. That was so cool. But it was just a neat little diorama, covers everything that the guy did. And let's give credit to the builder of this. Well, first of all, Bill Hattersley, he wrote the article, and from the looks of the article, it was Bill who built this. So that's pretty cool, very inspiring even to this day. 40 years ago, And then here's a little, make a trailer for a forklift. All the materials you need and all the plans and instructions on how to build it all out. Look at that. Blueprints on making a trailer. And this is something that's very still usable today. Look at leaf springs, which you can use for anything. You want to make your own leaf springs. You ever think about this? Is have them already pre-arced, and when you glue them together, it holds them in that arc. I used to make leaf springs. I might do a video on that. Why not? We'll do that here in a little bit. It's all stuff that I learned from these old Scale Autos. Now here is the article that I bought this magazine for, and I still am probably going to use this article if I go ahead and finally build this model. A 1975-76 Laguna S3, one of my favorite cars. Just always been infatuated with this car. I always wanted one. I missed out on a few when they were easy to obtain. The closest I ever got was I had a 73 Laguna at once, and it went flying off a trailer in a nice barrel roll in Vicksburg, Mississippi. That's for another story. This was a car that was never kitted, but in stock car, NASCAR stock car form. So this shows you how to transform the MPC stock car body into a street car. And this shows you, changing everything, you can really get that car to look like a street stock. The problem is, and I bought one and held it off, and I don't necessarily want to cut it up now because it's old, is you had to use the Johan 75 Cutlass kit. It was a little promo kit that you put it together. It didn't have an opening hood or anything. Yeah, I had a couple of these set aside just to do this, and I don't want to cut those up now. But it was pretty interesting. I could probably get away with maybe doing a little bit of resin casting and stuff, but it's really cool showing all the modifications and what to do to make this car look like the street car. All the little fill-in of the wheel well to make it correct for a street car. All the added body lines and things you have to add to make it a street car. It was pretty neat. Basically how to make your taillights, because you got to completely scratch build your taillights. Just a great article. That was the whole reason why I bought this magazine. When I first saw this magazine from my friend, it was like, I want to do this. And that was 35 years ago when I bought this magazine, and I still hold on to all my Scale Auto magazines. But yeah, this is definitely the reason why right here. This article, I will still use it. 40 years old, and it's still extremely useful. And look at that. Look how it turned out. Isn't that cool? Just turned out great. But just look at how much is in these magazines. I don't know if some of you who were getting Scale Auto towards the end, man, they were nothing like this. This is even just all black and white, and this is still 10 times better than what was being put out towards the end, where it was so corporate, so filled with ads, and I'm not sure why, but it just didn't have as much stuff in it. But of course the magazines don't have to cover so much because, well, we have the internet now and all our little groups, and we have YouTube that really takes care of filling all the spaces in. But these guys back in the day didn't have that. This is all we had for our connection to the outside world of the hobby and knowing what was going on. Just for truckers. So we already saw that there was a model car gallery separate for the truckers. You can send in your pictures and it'll showcase all your trucks. Model Firehouse. Who would have thunk it? Yeah, and they spent 5, 6, 7 pages on fire trucks. Coming events. So we knew. Look at all the model shows going on back then and related type of events. Scale mail. We keep on going on. There's more mail in the back. They filled the book up with as many letters that would come into the offices as they could. And here was your ad section. Here's your Craigslist, your Facebook Marketplace, right here. You put your ad in a few months, hopefully you start getting some letters sent to you of, hey, can I buy that? And you got to cut a deal over time instead of, oh, I want to sell this, throw it up on Facebook or Marketplace, whatever, and you have it sold in about an hour and you made your money. and you move on to the next project. There was some time you had to wait back in those days. But that's it. That is the back issues. That is it. Look at that. Another show coming up in March and September. And now we know how to get there. You got your Google Maps right there. And there's the back of it. Model Empire. Anybody remember Model Empire? They did some cool stuff in the hobby. So there you have it. Back how it was back in the early 80s for us modelers and trying to see what was going on in the hobby. Scale Auto Enthusiast. The great magazine started up by the great Gary Schmidt. I hope you enjoyed this. I'm going to start doing more of these. We haven't done one in probably a little over a year. Let me know in the comments below if you want me to keep doing these things, if you're really interested in seeing what old scale autos are. Or if you remember looking in an old scale auto and you remember some sort of article and you want to see it, but you can't remember what book it was in, basically from the early days or, mainly the 80s era, 90s era. Say something down in the comments below because, we're going to... we're going to look at them all over time, but maybe I'll go ahead and I'll hunt that one down and put it out in a series and let you on a video, and we'll take a look at that too. So just keep on letting me know what you guys think. I want to thank you guys for watching, and you know what we say here: go build model cars. Why the heck do we say that? Because they're fun. Here's the producers.